Hi, welcome to Essential IT and Security Skills. I'm Charles Redmond, Master Trainer, here to guide you through the essentials that you are going to need to land the job that you are looking for. In this series, we're going to talk about essential PC skills. I'm going to walk you through everything from software to hardware. Most people know me as a cybersecurity expert. Well, I couldn't have gotten there without learning the basics first. That's what this series is going to do. And then we'll move on in some later series with some more advanced concepts and techniques. But remember, it all starts with the basics. It starts right here, the essential PC skills. In this segment, we're going to talk about NTFS users and groups. You'll learn to create and administer Windows user accounts and groups, define and use NTFS permissions for authorization, share a Windows computer securely, and secure PCs with user account control. First, we'll start with authentication with users and groups. Authentication is the process by which you determine that a person at your computer is he or she says they are. The simplest way is with username and password. Each version of Windows does user accounts differently, so we'll look at them separately. Windows requires each user to have a user account. This is the basic element of security, with each user required to present a valid username and password to log on. Every Windows computer has a database of user accounts, an encrypted list of usernames, and their associated passwords. Each of these individual records is called a local user account. If you don't have a local user account created on a particular system, you won't be able to log on to that system. This is what the Windows 7 logon screen looks like. Each version of Windows has a different tool used to manage users and their accounts. The home editions of Windows, Windows XP, Windows Vista, and Windows Vista Home Basic and Home Premium, and Windows 7 Home Premium include a basic tool. The professional editions of Windows include an extra and more advanced utility. Passwords are the ultimate key to protecting your computer and the data that it contains. If someone learns your username and password, they can log on to the system as you. You should always take extra caution in protecting your passwords. Never give out a password over the phone. If a user forgets a password, the network administrator should reset it to a complex combination of letters and numbers, and then the user should then change the password to something he or she wants. You should also make sure that your users choose good passwords. They should be at least 8 characters in length and include letters, numbers, and special characters. Windows also offers a variety of ways to change or update your passwords, like creating a password reset disk or offering a password hint. Here's a look at the password hint on a Windows 7 logon screen. Next, we'll talk about groups. A group is a collection of accounts that share the same capabilities. This makes administration easier. Permissions can be set for the group, and then whenever a new user is added to that group, that user's account will inherit the same permissions of the group. Also, any individual account can belong to more than one group. There are several groups offered depending on the operating system that you're using. Windows XP Professional provides 7 built-in groups, and these groups cannot be deleted. It starts with administrators. Any account that is a member of the administrators group has complete administrative privilege and control over the system. Power users are almost as powerful as administrators, but they cannot install new devices or access other users' files like the administrators can. Users, called limited users, cannot edit the registry or access critical system files. However, they can create groups, but can only manage the groups that they create. Everyone applies to any user who can log on to the system. And guest enables someone who does not have an account on the system to log on by using the guest account. If you're using Windows XP Home Edition, you will only have 3 groups available to you: administrators, users, and guests. Windows Vista and Windows 7 Professional Editions offer the same groups as Windows XP Professional plus a few more. However, Windows Vista and Windows 7 Home Editions only offer 3 groups: administrators, users, and guests. The users group in Windows Vista and Windows 7 offer a significant improvement over the users group in Windows XP. Now they're called standard rather than limited. The users can accomplish all the common tasks on the PC without resorting to being an administrator. To add a group or change group membership, you're going to use the Local Users and Groups applet in the MMC. Windows XP provides the User's Account applet in the Control Panel for basic user and group management. An account that is a member of the Local Administrators group is called a Computer Administrator. An account that belongs only to the Local Users group is called the Limited User Account. When an administrator is logged on, the administrator sees both types of accounts. Limited users see only their own account. To create a user account, you need to provide a username. And you need to know which type of account to create, whether it be a computer administrator or limited. To create the new account in Windows XP, open the User Accounts applet from the Control Panel and click Create New Account. On the Pick an Account Type page, you will define which type of account. Here's what the User Account page looks like on a Windows XP system. You can also use the Change the way users log on and off option. When you select it, you'll see 2 checkboxes. If you select the Use Welcome Screen checkbox, Windows brings up the friendly welcome screen. If this box is unchecked, you'll get the classic logon screen. Fast user switching enables you to switch to another user account without requiring you to log off your current user account. You will use this option when 2 people actively share a system or when someone wants to borrow your system for a moment, but you don't want to close out of all your programs. However, this action is only active if you have the Use the Welcome Screen checkbox enabled. With Windows Vista and Windows 7, 3 accounts are created in installation: the guest account, the administrator account, and a local account that's a member of the administrators group. The tools available are going to vary depending on the version of Windows Vista that you're using. You will have user accounts in Vista Professional, Business, and Ultimate in a domain, and user accounts in Family Safety and all other versions, including Ultimate if you're not on a domain. It offers some parental controls. Parental controls enable the administrator account to manage other accounts, and it can manage, monitor, and report activity, block specific applications, and set time limits for usage. The professional editions of Windows include the Local Users and Groups tool. This is located in the Control panel under Administrative Tools and Computer Management. You'll use this to create, modify, and remove users and groups. Using multiple object types, Windows allows you to add more than just users to a group. Windows uses multiple object types to define what you can add. Object types include user accounts, groups, and computers. Each object type can be added to a group and assign permissions. You can either add group membership to a user's properties or add a user to a group's properties. Next, we'll talk about authorization through NTFS. So the NTFS permissions list users and groups granted access to a file or folder. These lists identify a specific level of access permitted. However, it's only available on volumes formatted as NTFS. The NTFS security is effective whether a user gains access at the computer or gains access over the network. So here are a few rules to live by when it comes to NTFS permissions. NTFS permissions are assigned to both user accounts and groups, although it's considered best practice to assign permissions to groups and then add the user to that group. Whoever creates a folder or a file will have control over that folder or file. Administrators do not automatically have complete control over every file or folder. If an administrator wants to access a file or folder they do not have permission to access, they can go through a process called take control. Some of the core NTFS permissions that you should be familiar with are ownership. When you create a new file or folder, you become the owner and you have full control. Administrators can take ownership permission, which enables a user to take ownership of the file or folder. You can change permission, which can give or take away permissions for other accounts. You can set these permissions by right-clicking and going to the Security tab in the Properties of any file or folder. Folder permissions apply to all folders, and file permissions apply to all files. When you have full control, you are enabled to do anything you want to deny all access or deny full control. When you have modify permissions, it enables you to do anything except delete files or subfolders, change permissions, or take ownership. If you have read and execute, it enables you to read the files and run programs. With the list folder contents permission, it enables you to see the contents of a folder and subfolders, but not read or change those files. With read, it enables you to read any files in the folder. And with write, it enables you to write to files and create new files and folders. By default, permissions are inherited from the parent folders. This can be prevented by removing the check mark at the bottom that says Inherent Permissions. NTFS file permissions are much the same as folder permissions. With full control, it enables you to do anything. With modify, it enables you to do anything except take ownership or change permissions to the file. With read and execute, if the file is a program, you can run it. With read, if the file is data, you can read it. And with write, it enables you to write to that file. It's important to remember that a user's effective permissions are the cumulative permissions resulting from a combination of user and group permissions. So, for instance, Sally is in the administrators group. Sally has read permission on a folder. The administrators group has full control on that folder. Sally's effective permission is full control. To limit this permission, you would have to enable a deny permission, which overrides all other permissions. Deny always becomes the effective permission, whether it be a file or a folder. Now let's talk about permission propagation. Permissions are retained or changed when files and folders are moved or copied. Propagation differs when files and folders are either copied or moved within an NTFS partition, copied or moved between two NTFS partitions, or copied or moved between an NTFS and a FAT or a FAT32 partition. So within one NTFS partition, when you copy, it creates two copies of the object. The original retains the permissions, and the new copy inherits permissions of the new container. When you move an object, it creates one copy of that object, and the object retains its original permissions. When going between two NTFS partitions, when you copy, it creates two copies of the object. The original retains the permissions, and the new copy inherits the permissions of the new container. When you move between two NTFS partitions, it creates one copy of that object, and the object inherits permission of the new container. And when you move between an NTFS partition and a FAT or FAT32 partition and you copy, it creates two copies of an object. The original retains its original permissions, and the new copy loses all permissions. When you move, it creates one copy of an object, and the object loses all permissions, because FAT32 offers no permissions at all. This is why NTFS is the preferred file system within the Windows operating system environments. Understand, technicians cannot do their job without the proper administrative privileges. However, it is always best not to ask for a user's password. Instead, make an administrator log you in. This will avoid false accusation. Some other things to consider is to lock down My Documents. Selecting the option to make this folder private blocks the contents from anyone accessing them. You can click the checkbox next to encrypt contents to secure data to encrypt. Shared documents make sharing among accounts easy. However, all accounts can access shared documents. When you invoke simple file sharing, it doesn't take advantage of NTFS permissions properly. It's either all or nothing. You can turn off simple file sharing in Windows XP Professional simply by going to Tools and then Folder Options, select View, and then deselect Use Simple File Sharing. Windows XP Professional in a domain automatically disables simple file sharing. In Windows Vista, simple file sharing is replaced with targeted sharing. Public folder expands on the side of shared documents. Targeted sharing, the reader gives read-only permission, contributor gives read and write, plus delete for documents that user created, and co-owner can do anything with a shared resource. Public folders and their subfolders are available both locally and over the network for users. Windows 7 keeps with the file sharing options of Windows Vista, but it also adds home groups. Instead of sharing individual files or folders, you can use home group to share libraries, such as documents or music libraries. Any files in the shared libraries will be automatically accessible to everyone in the home group. To access those shared libraries, you'll need a password to join that home group. This protects the security of any shared data. If you need to locate a shared folder, you can use the Computer Management Administrative tool to view all folders shared on that computer. To identify administrative shares, some of them created by default appear with a $sign, like $C$ or E$. These cannot be deleted. If they are, they'll simply be recreated when the system reboots. However, they do not appear when you browse a machine over the network, though you can map them by name. You also have the option of protecting data with encryption. Take ownership permission means that even non-shared documents are not safe from the hands of administrators. Encryption involves scrambling the data in a file or folder so that only the account that encrypts it can read it. The EFS, or encrypted file system, is available only in professional versions of Windows. The home versions have no built-in encryption capabilities. However, going to the properties of any file or folder, simply navigate from the General tab down to the Advanced button, and then select Encrypt Contents to secure data. With Windows Vista and 7 Enterprise and Ultimate editions, you have the option of using the BitLocker drive encryption. BitLocker encrypts the entire drive. However, it requires the TPM, or Trusted Platform Module chip, on the motherboard. To enable BitLocker, simply go to the Control Panel and then System and Security, and then select BitLocker Drive Encryption. Now let's talk about User Account Control, or the UAC. The UAC was originally introduced in Windows Vista. However, it wasn't very popular because it was extremely intrusive. Vista's UAC seemed to pop up every single time you wanted to do anything within the Windows Vista system. Nevertheless, the UAC is an important security update, and it still continues through Windows 7. It is also a common feature in both Mac and Linux OSs. It was a beginning attempt to try to solve some of the confusion caused by NTFS permissions, abused administrator accounts, and user accounts that had too many permissions. Here's a look at a UAC in action. Of course I want to run the Adobe Flash Player. Here's what it looks like on a Mac.